How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, what I'm bringing to you is going to be the updated Striker Guide. Now, I'm really excited for this video because I've been cooking on ladder lately. This deck is really good, and that's something that I'm very excited to show off as well. So if you haven't already checked out my sponsors over in RW, Cloud, Gem, Arla, Imperium, Dragonshield, and Grimoire, definitely go ahead and do so all down below in the description. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, subscribe so that we can hit 25,000 and 30,000 by the end of the year. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all so much, and let's hop right into the Striker Guide. The first one's going to be talking about Lemon Escape. This card's really crazy. Being able to activate this, even if there's monsters in your main monster zone, is pretty nice. This is very niche, but if you get Kaiju, at least you can return the Kaiju and then turn back on your shark cannons and your anchors. This is really powerful, in my opinion, being able to do things like that. This is another card too that just mirrors Hercules base in a way where you're actually able to recycle your resources, which is really cool. And this is just like one of the best grind game cards I could have seen in a long time. This is something too where people are playing two. Don't play two. This card's not a two of. This is a one of. This deck is a toolbox deck, and that's one thing that I cannot stress enough. You would only play one booster, one burner, one jamming waves, one shark cannon. You're only playing one of the toolbox cards because you don't need more than one. Even back when we played Hercules base, we just played one. And I feel like this is no different. You're playing a toolbox deck. You want everything in the toolbox. You just play one copy. Card is very good, but you just play one. Now for Zero. This card is absolutely just busted as hell. I think this card is really good. Adding a striker spell back from deck or grave is really crazy, but the amount of things that you can do with this card and what it represents is actually insane. So there's a couple things that I'll be talking about later on in the video with this card too that just make it so special for the deck, but you cannot use this card as link material, yet you can tribute it and then summon a Ray and a Rose from your deck or grave. So if you do open Rose, you do have to commit the Rose to the board in some way, shape, or form to make sure that your Zero can activate. And you're only ever playing one Rose, so you want to make sure that that card gets to the board as soon as possible, and then you can also non-targeting destroy a card in the field, which is a very good effect. Sadly, you can only activate one of these effects per turn, but there's a lot of ways that just like doesn't really matter, right? So we'll talk about that and more moving forward. The next thing I want to talk about, though, is going to be using Lemon Escape and Zero together. So one of the cool things that you can do is actually one of the reasons why you can go first with the deck now is if you have Lemon Escape and Grave, you can go Zero, tag out to Ray Rose, destroy a card, and then trigger the Lemon Escape and Grave, link both of your Rose and Ray into Zeke, and now you get to banish a card as well. So not only do you non-target destroy a card, you also banish a card. Very reminiscent of like Vanquish Soul right now, summoning Rosin to get a pop and then Caesar to get a pop. So you have a very cool way to interact with your opponent outside of just using your spell cards, which is something that was lacking for a very long time. The next thing though is Zero makes it possible to just like OTK your opponent out of nowhere. And this is finally why Linkage can return to being a 3 of in the deck. I think the card is fantastic now. They gave us a light Link monster. Did you just hear what I said? We have a light Link monster. Now, the importance of that, linkage requires a light and dark ace engrave. So now you don't even really need Rose. You just use Zero engrave for the attribute, which is really crazy. So you can just go normal summon Ray, Ray attack, then Ray effect into Zero, Zero add linkage, Zero attack, then go linkage, tag out into Kagari, Kagari attack for 25 plus spell count, and then go linkage again into like Hayate if you want, right? And it's just so much damage. Like, it's actually insane. Just one Ray now is just like death, right? And I think that's kind of crazy. So that's something to keep in mind too. And the other thing too, that if you get drolled and you're just like, wow, what do I do now? You can actually just like summon Zero. Let's say you go engage add Ray and they droll you. You can go Ray effect into Zero, and you can either leave Zero on board if you have Lemon Escape engrave and do the 2 interruption play, or you can just go like Ray into Zero, Zero effect, summon out Ray and Rose, and overlay in the EMZ to Baguska. And I feel like that's another really good option. It's in my list right now. I think that that's really solid and something that you should really consider as well. Now, I have like a ton of slides that just say things that you can do because I want to refresh everyone on the things that you are allowed to do in this deck. The first one being very relevant is Dark Charmer Reborn Borger or Shark Cannon Reborn Borger. And you can just keep revealing Ray once a turn, right? So you go reveal Ray on your turn, reveal Ray on your opponent's turn, and then you're just drawing cards off Borger, which is pretty cool. And then this is why I play cards like Droplet, because you can get rid of those things in your main monster zone, so you don't really have to worry about it. The same thing goes for using Shark Cannon to reborn a boss monster like a Negation in the grave in the end phase. You can go ahead and just like get rid of it, right, with things like Droplet, which is really cool. And I think that that's really valuable. The next thing is going to be Droplet making engage the third spell or whatever striker spell you want to use. If you have, let's say, like 2 spells engrave, and then you activate engage, and then you go to search, and your opponent chains something, or they don't chain something, and you just chain Droplet to it, and then you send engage to grave, this will make engage the third spell for its own activation in grave because it does check on resolution. Now, what's a striker guide without me mentioning my favorite play? So, one of the things that I think is really important in this deck is if you open multi-roll on talent, this is one of the best plays that you can do in the deck. What you can do is activate multi-roll. And a lot of times they're gonna interact with it, right? But sometimes they might wait until you use the effect. So what you'll do is activate multi-roll and set talent, and then you'll go multi-roll target talent. So what's gonna happen is either they're going to stop multi-roll because it's an absolutely absurd card, and then you'll just flip talent, or you'll use multi-roll, get rid of talent, and then you never needed the talent because now they can't respond at all. As mentioned earlier, this is one of the things that I think is really cool is that you can go Ray tag out into 0 as a link 2 because this card specifically says that it doesn't need to be link summoned. Getting familiar with the Shizuku Shuffle. So this works in one of 2 ways. You can either go to your end phase and use multi-roll to set something out of your grave that you want to add with Shizuku. So let's say there's an anchor in your grave and you want to make sure that you can go ahead and set that. You can set the anchor off multi-roll and then add the anchor off Shizuku. Or you can go like your opponent has a couple things in grave that you want to banish or you want to reborn, right? You can go Shizuku add Shark Cannon, banish something out of their grave, and then go multi-roll, reset the same Shark Cannon, which is really solid. And that's something where even against decks like Orcus, that can be potent, right? Because your opponent really wants to maintain all those cards engraved. Or if you're playing against like Fiendsmith, you just start banishing out every engraver they have, right? So that's something that this deck can do. We call it the Shizuku Shuffle, and is very important to be able to do. Droplet versus 3000 attack monsters is this deck's favorite thing to do, because you can turn 3000 attack monsters into 1500 attack monsters. So if you do run in the situation where you can go ahead and attack in with Hayate and then crash the Hayate, this is really important because you do send before it is destroyed. It is marked for destruction before it is sent to the grave, and this is why knowing the damage step is very important. So let's say they have a Baron in their EMZ, and then you go attack in with Hayate because the Baron is halved with Droplet, so they both have 1500 attack. You can dump the Rose to grave, crash with Baron, and then trigger the Ray and the Rose. Or you could use a Ray that you sent or a Rose that you sent. So both are very impactful and can come up very often in a lot of matchups. One of my favorite things to do in this deck, honestly, is end of battle phase, use Ray effect to tag out, and then chain evenly matched. If Ray is the only thing on your board, you are allowed to do this. You just call end of battle, Ray effect, and then chain evenly because you are in the end of battle. So that is something that is really crazy and something that not a lot of people know. One of my biggest issues with this deck is when people try to go second, they play way too many go second cards. What happens when you have to pass because you broke the board and they still have cards in hand? Like, you can't set these cards, right? Like the hard go second cards, you can't set them. They just don't work. So that's why I like playing cards like Book of Eclipse, Book of Moon, the things like Droplet that you can actually set and they'll do something during your opponent's turn, right? I think that's really important because if you're not just outright killing them that turn, they can just turn around and do it to you. So make sure that you're not playing too many hard go second cards. It is nice to play them, but you don't need too many of them. Something to know that's very important in the mirror match, that if you crash your Striker Ace Link monsters in the EMZ, this is something that you really should know. So you're going to, as turn player, use your Rose effect to go ahead and reborn itself. Your opponent is going to use their Ray. So when they summon out their Ray, then you summon out Rose, it's all one effect to summon Rose and negate a card, so you just negate their Ray. And at that point, if they try to use Ray, it'll resolve without effect because it is negated. So this is something where prioritizing Rose and Grave in the mirror match is really important. I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, definitely go ahead and leave a like, subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already checked out my Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Instagram, definitely go ahead and do so all down below in the description. I appreciate all of you, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Thank you.